What's up, everyone? Alex here, and welcome to my little corner of the internet. I wanted to talk about having an autonomous transgender identity, which would differ from something like non-binary or genderqueer, which I will get into, but specifically I wanted to talk about being transmaverin. That is the term for being transgender and having qualities or aspects of one's gender that are entirely outside of masculine, feminine, neutral, and null. So it's just simply outside of these concepts and exists as its own category, in the Maverin category. You have masculine, you have feminine, you have Maverin. Maverin is automatically autonomous at its core. It is a quality that's related to the gender Maverick, which is an autonomous gender that fits into its own category and is not genderless and not at all binary. And it's not a combination of binary qualities. It is not in between the binary. It exists as its own gender based on personal inner convictions of gender and, aspects of being ungovernable. So, governable? I've never said that word before. I don't know how to say that word because of the R in the word. Ungovernable? What in the world? I feel like I have marbles in my mouth. I'm never saying that word again. There's certain words I won't say because I sometimes have a little bit of a lisp, but that one I'm not touching. What the hell? That was weird. Anyway, it's outside of governance. It's outside of typical categorization. So transmaverinity shares a lot of qualities in that way with the Maverick experience, where it is outside of masculine, feminine, neutral, null, and exists as its own standalone identity. So I am a transgender man. There is a difference between transmasculine and transgender man. Anyone of any gender can be transmasculine. Transgender man is a specific type of gender experience. I have a lot of stuff going on with my gender, and largely I'm still a man. This isn't to say, yeah, underneath it all, I'm really just a man. So, it's not giving permission for people to ignore all the other aspects of me. It's just socially, that's just what I am as a man. And unfortunately, that's what people care about. They don't care about the other stuff, just the general populace. Just my day-to-day going to work. People are going to refer to me as a man. They're going to see me as a man. I pass as a man. I've talked about the focal point of malehood in my identity and wanting to appeal to the more neutral side of my identity, but that can't always happen. In queer spaces, sure, but in my day-to-day life, it's not always easy to be out as all of these things. So I am a transgender man. I've never called myself transgender, transgender aporagender. I've never heard it referred to as that, because normally people will say transmasculine, transfeminine, transneutral, and then if there's a gender that's not man or woman, it's I'm transmasculine and I'm non-binary, or I'm transfeminine and I'm aporagender. I've never seen transgender Maverick or something. So that's interesting to me. I've seen it mentioned, but more often the gender kind of stands alone and is not attached to the transness in that phrasing, I guess. That's just a random thing I realized. Yeah, there's transgender man, transgender woman, and then everything else is just the one word, transmasculine, transneutral. That's interesting to me. I wonder if other people have ways of talking about gender in that way. That's interesting. Anyway, transgender man, but I do technically fall under the transmasculine label. I just don't use it. I reject the concept of being shoehorned into it. I explained not transmasculine, transmaverin. I refuse to use labels like transmasculine, transneutral, transnewmasc, which is the combination of the two, despite the fact that there are neutral and masculine qualities to my gender. It limits my identity to just those aspects. If I say I'm transmasculine, there's kind of a expectation that I follow this set of rules, or that I look a certain way, or that I have a certain experience. And transmasculinity is also, it's complicated. A lot of people are seeing transmasculine and transfeminine as like these identities that are tied to assigned gender and can only be specific experiences for people with specific perceived bodies, which I hate, because that means that as a transgender man, I have been shoved out of the usage of transmasculine. I've been kind of not allowed to use a term like that. And I wonder what transneutral is meant to be if transmasc and transfem are supposed to be based on assigned gender at birth. Does transneutral sit in the middle where it can be any and all assigned genders? Or like, am I thinking of it too trinarily, where like transfem and transmasc are their own thing and transneutral doesn't fit as a group with it? Like, I don't know what's been going on, but I just don't want people expecting my experiences and my body and my labels to look a certain way because I'm using the transmasculine label. So I go for transmaverin because it encompasses the other, and it encompasses the autonomous nature of my gender. Maverinity can also mean redefining gendered concepts. So for me, outwardly, I look traditionally masculine. And I mean, it's validating when people say that I'm masculine or see me as masculine. But being maverin means that I'm redefining that concept for myself. I'm taking masculinity and I'm reshaping it to fit a very non-standard, a very abinary experience with gender. So that's a part of where the autonomy comes in, where I am defining this transgender identity for myself. I'm refusing to use transmasculine, and in part, it kind of plays into the like sex autonomy, which I've talked about like on Tumblr. I've talked about it in blog posts, but I've written essays about this, but I'm so hesitant to put this kind of thing on YouTube because people are being weird right now. People are being really weird about non-binary and transgender content on YouTube right now. At least like in my little area, in my comment section, my videos are being either pushed to the wrong people, or those people are specifically seeking out non-binary content and transgender content to leave hate. It's very strange. So this is a little too intimate for me, but I wanted to talk about sex autonomy, where, you know, the refusal of falling into the sex binary, refusal to use terms like male and female to talk about my own physiology. I don't really want to push this on other people, but, you know, my transgender identity is tied to my physiology for sure. So I reject assigned gender at birth as a concept, as an identifier. I don't tell people what sex I was assigned at birth. That's fucking weird. And people talk about their assigned gender a little too much. Intersex people should absolutely talk more about assigned sex at birth. Like that, absolutely. That's like important. I keep switching between assigned sex and assigned gender. I keep bumping the mic and then moving the mic, so sorry about that. I'm using assigned sex and assigned gender kind of interchangeably, and it's because sex is gendered. People have specific gendered expectations of one's sex, so I kind of flip-flop between assigned sex and assigned gender just as the sentence flows. So that's why I'm doing it. Like, to me, it kind of is almost the same thing, where if you're assigned female, you're assumed girl. Like, that your sex is being gendered. That's the problem with assigned sex. But, intersex people should be talking more about assigned sex because it affects them the most and harms them the most as a concept. But in transgender spaces, in non-binary spaces, people will introduce themselves with their assigned sex to like a forum of strangers as if they're stating their pronouns. Like, it's just a part of the whole introduction sequence. Or sometimes, on the YB3 blog, people will tell me their assigned sex at birth and then go into, am I allowed to use this label if I have this assigned sex? And it's like, go ahead and use the label, but I'm just a random guy on the internet. Tumblr's weird. The internet's weird. Don't tell strangers intimate information about yourself. I don't talk about assigned gender or anything like that, and you shouldn't either. And you shouldn't use it as an identifier. It is an event that happened, and the proper wording would be, I was assigned male at birth. I was assigned female at birth. And it's like, if you're using it in a sentence, there's transgender people AMAB and transgender people AFAB. So it's transgender people assigned female at birth, transgender people assigned male at birth. It goes at the end of the statement. That's just pedantry. People are just using it as like, I'm an AFAB woman. I don't know why I said it like that, but our token AFAB woman. Like, people will use it in that way, and it's like, okay, so you're an assigned female at birth woman. You mean you were a woman assigned female at birth? Like, put it at the end after the noun. It's very strange. I don't know. Whatever. I'm getting off topic. I refuse to get into the AGAB language, assigned gender at birth. I don't use it as an identifier, and I don't like when people tell me theirs in my inbox, especially when you don't go on anonymous, and it's like, you don't know me, and I don't know you. Like, you don't know what I can do with personal information of yours. It doesn't matter what kind of space I've carved out. Just don't tell me random things like that. Don't randomly trust strangers with personal identifying information. That's weird. Anyway, I refuse the sex binary. I refuse AGAB talk because my transness, it's a physiological thing for me. My transness has to do with my sex and with my physical transition goals and physical transitioning I've done thus far. I don't do the like female to male or male to female labels. Those feel slightly outdated to me. But that's just because I'm old as hell, and those feel outdated because that's what we grew up with, was female to male, male to female. I don't know actually how old those kind of terms are, but they, first of all, they give away like, your body looked exactly this way starting out, and then it just focuses too much on linearity. So my gender is not linear. It's taken all kinds of paths. I know some people will say male to female to non-binary or things like that, where there's like a triplicate of terms being used in this identity or in this label. I guess it's a label. But I refuse all of that in favor of sex autonomy, gender autonomy. I don't use trans autonomous, which is also a term that people use. It's really broad. Trans autonomous is so vague. It's a cool term. I like it, but I like transmaverin for the fact that it is not feminine, masculine, or neutral. Like, I kind of like that it is specifically something outside of these pre-existing concepts. They're called pre-existing concepts, pre-existing qualities. I coined the term ordinous to kind of unify these qualities, feminine, masculine, androgynous, and neutral, so that instead of saying pre-existing, which is a confusing kind of terminology, I say ordinous qualities. And just a note, because I've seen it in my comments before, people are not ordinous or exordinous. Just the qualities and genders are ordinous and exordinous. Exordinous meaning outside of those. I had seen that, and I didn't want to be rude and be like, well, actually, no, the usage is very important. Just no. And there's no being partially ordinous, partially exordinous. So there's no like demi versions of these things. There's no combinations. You cannot make them combinatory. I don't know how you would be like, oh, it's an ordinous and exordinous quality at the same time. No. Nope. That is not why I coined it. I coined those terms specifically for like ease of language. So I had talked about that in another video. I realized I already have a video about that. So definitely like go to that video and check that out. And also I have blog posts about it. The original coining post has all the information. The wiki page for exordinous and ordinous has an explanation on how to use the terminology. I feel like my transness is outside of categorization, and it's entirely my own. I'm a transgender man, no matter how my transition might look or what path I might take to get to where I want to be physically, mentally, emotionally. And my trans identity is what I make it, no matter how other people are attempting to define it for me. So again, going back to the rejection of transmasculine, fitting me under the transmasculine umbrella is how people are attempting to define my transness for me. So that's the autonomous nature of my transness. It just exists as a Maverin experience, and it's just something that I shape to fit myself, my own needs. And whatever that means to bigots and stuff, I don't care. Like, there's always going to be someone out there who can never be convinced that my experiences are valid and real, and that I am being my authentic self. A lot of people, I think, assume, when I say people, a lot of bigots, a lot of transphobes assume, like, I'm confused, I'm delusional, all this other stuff. It's a very tired narrative, honestly, that I have finally figured myself out in a way that I wish I had known sooner. And I know all these aspects of myself that I'm like happy to have discovered, and it's inspired me to learn more about gender as a concept and to write more about, tangential experiences. So experiences that are similar to my own, or maybe I can relate to, or I can compare my own experience to. And like, I'm happy to be in this place. And I guess it's just beyond people's perception of trans people. It's confusing to them that a trans person can be happy in their identity. They see us as something that is broken, that needs fixing. And it's like, what problem are you fixing? what are you preparing us for by stripping us of our transness and putting us back out into society as like these perfectly molded human beings? What problem are you solving by doing that? It's very strange. It's a strange line of thinking, but I have I will continue talking about my own personal experiences with being trans, with being bigender, with being non-binary, and being a man in a way that society does not accept or embrace. And I won't convince everybody that, you know, I'm a human being deserving of respect. I don't know. That's kind of it. Just, I'm going to keep talking about gender. I don't shut up about gender, and that's fine. If it's not hurting myself or others, then I don't understand what the problem is. The intricacies of gender, it's always going to be there. There are people out there who will never have to experience being seen as a gender that is not real, or being seen as delusional for just living their gender. Like a cisgender woman can say, I'm a woman, and that's not ever questioned, debated, or written into law as a flaw with that person. I mean, obviously, cisgender women are, you know, there's discrimination against cisgender women, there's misogyny. That's obviously a very big problem, and you would think that that means that there'd be a little bit more understanding of the transgender experience. It's not even just the violence against women is appalling, but imagine they're also not allowed to adopt children, to access healthcare, or to use public bathrooms without the threat of violence from people, or, you know, being fined, being banned from places, being jailed for just existing, and being seen as like a predator for just having a particular gender experience. Like, I need better understanding of where I'm coming from, but it's never going to happen universally. I'm going to continue talking about gender, and the people who are interested in it, sure, even if they have no idea what's going on, but they're trying to understand it, like, they're welcome here. People who are not trans are welcome here, of course. People who are not non-binary are welcome here as well. Like, anybody who wants to learn about gender, or, you know, hear my experience with gender. But the other people who just want to hate and spread misinformation, it's not that they're not welcome here. It's just that I'm not going to try to convince them that I am just having a normal gender experience. I don't know. I'm starting to fizzle out now. I'm just like thinking about like some of the comments I've gotten lately, and just some of the weird hate for no reason. Like, there's so many problems in the world, and like, why do you think my YouTube channel is one of them? That's pretty much it. Trans autonomy. I'm glad I could actually expand this topic, because I had such a short little outline of talking points, so I'm glad I could like expand them into a larger conversation. I try to make terms and concepts easier to understand by explaining them in every video, so you can watch a video on its own and you don't have to be like referring to all these other videos like, oh, what is he talking about? He says he mentioned it in another video. No, I will always try to explain something in the video I'm talking about the thing, so that you don't have to like click away and go find like what the hell I'm talking about. And I try to expand on topics that I'm talking about. So if I'm talking about transmaverinity, I go into what the Maverin experience is and what Maverick is as a gender, and I try to like kind of tie it all together and give like a reference point when I'm talking. So yeah, that's it. I am signing off for now. See you later.